Hi, I'm going to demonstrate floating divs, but what we're going to do is we're going to use a class so that we're using three divs all floating next to each other but using the same class because they are the same as each other. So what I have here, this is from a design comp that we have looked at in class. In fact, let's see, the design comp is open right here. There's the design comp. We've talked about this and looked at this in class. And I've started building it in Dreamweaver. That's what you saw on the screen a moment ago. And I'm at the point that I have these three thumbnails that go across the bottom here. Okay, and I've got three columns. You can't tab things across in Dreamweaver, and so it makes sense that those are each in a div and they're floating. Also, you note the headlines above them need to stay with them, so those will go in the same divs. Okay, so going back over to Dreamweaver, I'll show you what I've built so far. So there's the structure I've built so far. It does have a header running across the top up here. If I can get it to select it, there's my header running across the top. It has a nav sitting in it, and then I have two columns. I have a sidebar, which is in a side tag, and then over here I am using a section with a class of content, and that's how I'm building this column over here. So I want to continue below this image here and put those columns in place. So let's go back to split. Okay, and if I look in code, that's the image, that's this image right here. That's just a placeholder where video is going to go in later. And so I can see where it is in code here. And then at the end of the line is my close section tag. So that's my column. So let's push that down, because here on line 22, that's where I want to be working now. Okay, so I need to insert some divs here. Let's go get some measurements real quick to work with. So let's go back here to Photoshop. I'm going to turn my guides back on, Command colon, and my column starts at this point right here, and so I'm just going to do divs that go from here to here. So I want to pull quick measurements off of here, see how big these are. Okay, that looks like 221. It may vary a little bit. 222, and I believe they're supposed to be 220, so we're going to go with that. And then I have the space to the right of it, and it is 24, and I believe it's supposed to be 25. 24, yeah. So we're going to go 220 and 25 on the right hand side. Okay, so I'm actually going to use a div tag this time, because this is really just structural. So I'm going to go insert div. Now I'm using a class because I want to use the same one 3 different times. So I'm going to name this featured video, because that's what those little thumbnails are for. So featured video. Let's go ahead and create the new CSS rule while I'm here. Make sure it says class.featuredvideo. I'm going to save this in my styles.css file, so we can say OK. Now, if I think about what I want on these, I'm going to go to the box. I know that my width is 220 pixels. I am floating them left. Okay. And let's see, I'm going to put margin on the outside to hold them apart. So on the right, I'm going to use 25 pixels to push it apart from the next one over. I believe that's about all I need on that one. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And once again say OK right there. And you can see the beginning of my div right there. So let's see, in this div it said headline. And that headline, if I remember correctly, that's an H3. So let's go ahead make that an H3. Okay, so I got my tags on there. So I can see in code here. And then right below that, I'm going to have the image right there. Okay, so I don't think I've saved those, so let's jump back to Photoshop. I am going to come down to this first one. I'm going to right click. There we go. Feature 1 is that one. So I'm going to select that. That gave me that layer. I'm going to do Command click on that thumbnail. So you see how it selected it there. And I'm going to say copy, new file. 221 is what it's giving me, RGB. So I'm going to say create. And I'm going to say paste. Okay, so there's my first thumbnail. Now that is off ever so slightly, so I'm going to go to my image size, and instead of being 221, I want to make sure this is on resample, and I'm going to say 220. Okay, so that's my proper size. I'm going to go do a save as, put this on my computer, and I'm going to just call this, I'm going to call it feature 1 right now, and make this a JPEG because it's photographic in nature. Okay, let's see if I am anywhere close to being in the right place. I am not, so let's go find my root folder. Let's see, Acme Videos is where I'm working, and Images. Okay, so you can go find yours. Mine was kind of buried down there. So I'm just going to name it Feature 1, save it right there, say OK. Good, so there is one of those. I'm just going to stick with one right now. We can work with that. So deselect, back over to Dreamweaver. Okay, so I have my headline there, and then I want that image to go directly below it. So I'm going to make sure I'm clicked on that open line. I'm going to say insert image, local root folder. Good, that's a good start. Come down here to Acme Videos. In my images, feature1.jpg, and I'm going to say open, and it put it in place right there. So there we go. There's my first one. You see it's holding the space over there on the right. So now that I have one in place, the easiest thing to do is I'm just going to come grab this div down here in code. Okay, so you see I have my div with the class of featured video all the way to my close div tag. I'm going to copy that. Click at the end of that div, hit return and paste, and return and paste. Now my spacing's a little funny down here. The spacing honestly doesn't matter. I can come back and clean that up if I'd like. But when I click, you'll see that I have all three of them lined up now. So I can select them independent of each other. And you see how using the common CSS across them makes sense. So you have to plan that it works out right. So this space off on the right hand side works each time, and I now have them all set. I need to put a little space across the bottom. Definitely have some more things to clean up, but that's the basics on getting that in place. I also need to come in here and replace image 2 and image 3.